everyone, and welcome back to Radical Lifestyle. Continuing our tour of Expo 2020, and this time I'm going to take you to 4 pavilions. We'll be checking out Korea, Indonesia, Thailand, and France. So sit back and relax as I take you to all 4 pavilions. Let's start with the Korean pavilion. The Korean pavilion is just like how I would imagine Korea to be. Futuristic and dynamic. With the futuristic theme, we all received a mobile device which was used to give us a guided tour of the entire pavilion. After we received our mobile device, we headed to the first stop on the tour. On the way to the first stop, we passed by an open space. This open space is called the madang, which is very common in many traditional Korean houses. This madang, they've held many shows including from popular K-pop artists. Reached our first stop on the tour, which is called the Moving Wonder. Moving Wonder are the iconic, moving, colorful blocks that make up the outer shell of the pavilion. Moving Wonder looks just as spectacular at the nighttime with all the lights on. We keep walking around the pavilion, we stop at many different locations, and at each location our mobile device would show us an image or video of a particular culture or tradition from Korea. Stop on the tour was a vertical cinema. As we walk into the theater, we see a huge vertical screen and lots of cushions for us to lay down and watch the show. As we finished the movie, we walked out and into the madang, and we saw a short little light show. As we finish the light show, we head on over to the next pavilion, which is Indonesia. As we walk into the Indonesian pavilion, we see a huge wall filled with spices of all different kinds. This represents the role Indonesia played in the spice trade.
And opportunity. Let me take you through a journey of our past, present, and future. Indonesia's yesterday was ahead of its time, where the discovery of the Spice Islands helped spark the global trade and made way for our modern civilization.
The remaining of the pavilion was a visual representation of Indonesia's food, art, and many different cultures and traditions. So sit back and enjoy this visual treat that is Indonesia. At the end of the pavilion, we saw a small stage where they had many traditional instruments. I'm sure they have put on many shows here for all the visitors. So at the end of the pavilion, there is a store where you can buy many of the traditional clothes and food from Indonesia. So that brings us to the end of the Indonesian pavilion. Now we're on to Thailand. You know that Thailand is known as the land of smiles. And that's exactly what the pavilion does to all the visitors that visit. As we walk into the pavilion, we see many traditional sculptures from Thailand. The first sculpture is a very intricately carved chariot, followed by another intricately carved snake boat. The first attraction in the pavilion is a show about the history of Thailand. Now let's take a look. As the video about the history ended, the next video we walked into is about the future plans for Thailand.
Our destination, Thailand! Wow! Wow, that plane is gigantic! Say, Malik, follow this high-speed train. Let's see who's faster. Did you know that Thai international airports can handle over 240 million passengers a year? And there's also a big center for aviation menace.
Sure, today Thailand is a regional hub for transportation.
The last show was on a very unique looking screen. It displayed the lives of many prominent Thai people, many of whom were foreigners and relocated their lives to Thailand. And that was the end of the Thailand pavilion. And as we walk outside and head over to the next pavilion, we pass by the small little tuk-tuk that are very common in Thailand. You can even take a short ride on this tuk-tuk. Now our next stop is France. Right outside the pavilion, there is a small bakery full of snacks and delicacies from France. We are also greeted by the Laughing Cow mascot. Did you know the Laughing Cow cheese is originally from France? I didn't, and that was news to me. The inside of the pavilion looks very futuristic and very digital. It was filled with huge screens showing old videos about the history of France and also a few items from various museums from France. Here's something that caught my eye. It's a book about alphabets from various Asian languages. It seems that French philosophers were very much interested and admired Tamil or Malabar alphabets. In the next section, we see a glimpse of France's contribution to the European Space Agency. In the next section, we see France's effort to reduce its carbon footprint and also become more environmentally friendly. The last section is yet again another museum-style setup. Here there are a myriad of items, including a futuristic-looking boat. After we took a quick look around and got our stamp on our Expo passports, we headed out. Well, that brings us to the end of this episode of Expo 2020. Thanks for watching. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. If you did, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you next time.